And to shed more light on this meeting, we are delighted to be joined on the phone by Dr. Ayman, Ghoneim, Professor of Economics. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam. How do you do?
So, Dr. Ayman, how do you weigh the importance of Afrcia Bank's role in boosting intra-African trade?
Well, actually, Afrcia Bank plays a pivotal role in boosting intra-African trade because it addresses Africa's most critical structural challenge, which is the shortage of trade finance and risk mitigation mechanisms. You know that Africa's population now exceeds 1.4 billion people, yet the intra-African trade still accounts for no more than 15% of total African trade. And this is far below the global benchmarks, where in Asia it accounts for more than 60% of the Asian trade, and in Europe around 70%. So the bank has been instrumental actually in closing this gap by mobilizing more than $86 billion in trade and development financing between 2016 and 2022. Its assets and guarantees now exceed $40 billion. Through these liquidity support and guarantees and specialized trade finance programs, the bank was able to enable the African exporters, particularly SMEs actually, to trade confidently across borders, which makes it a cornerstone for the Africa economic integration.
So, sir, how would you comment on ties between Egypt and Afrcia Bank?
Well, actually, the relationship between Egypt and the bank is strategic and is mutually reinforcing because Egypt, Cairo actually hosts the bank's North Africa regional office, which reflects Egypt's geographic and economic importance as a gateway between Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Egypt has also played a key role, and it has been a key platform for the Afrcia Bank-backed initiatives, such as the Intra-African Trade Fair, which directly links the African producers, financiers, and buyers. More recently, the cooperation between Egypt and the bank has expanded into more strategic sectors. This includes agreements to establish a Pan-African gold banking platform in Egypt, and this aims at retaining the value within Africa's resource supply chain, and Egypt is playing a pivotal role in this. Now, this partnership actually supports Egypt's ambition to significantly expand its currently limited share of the intra-African trade, and it deepens Egypt's role in the continental value chain integration.
So, sir, Cairo praised the bank's role in activating the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. How would you list benefits to African countries from activating the pact?
Well, actually, activating the African Continental Free Trade Area is a structural turning point for African economies. I would call it a game changer because the trade area creates a single market for more than 1.4 billion people, with combined GDP, which is projected to reach $7 trillion by 2035. It offers African producers unprecedented scale for marketing their products. According to the World Bank estimates, the full implementation of this agreement could increase the currently modest intra-African trade exports by around 80%, particularly in manufacturing and value-added sectors, of course. The Afrcia Bank plays a critical role in activating the African Continental Free Trade Area. The Afrcia Bank offers a $10 billion adjustment fund, trade finance facilities, and Pan-African payment and settlement system and the later it allows cross-border trade to be settled instantaneously and in local currencies, so reducing dependencies on the major foreign hard currencies and retaining them for other uses. These mechanisms actually, they reduce costs, they attract investment, they support industrialization, and they help the African economies to shift from exporting raw materials to building integrated regional value chains.
So, sir, during the meeting with the new Afrcia Bank Chief, Foreign Minister Abdelati highlighted the possibility of diversifying the existing frameworks of cooperation between Egypt and the bank. How would you elaborate on the impact of diversifying the existing frameworks?
Well, actually, Egypt has been interested in deepening its role as the hub for the African integration and and in deepening the African economic integration, especially that Africa has very strong potential in this regard, and Egypt has been always voicing the South of the voice of the South. It's the need of the South to enhance its financial institutions and to finance its needs either for adjusting with climatic changes or for improving its infrastructure or financing its bilateral trades. That's why diversifying the cooperation with the Afrcia Bank would help in this regard, especially that this bank is specialized in a critical area, which is the bilateral trade between the African countries. That could lead finally to economic integration and helping the industrialization of the African countries.
So, sir, also Foreign Minister Abdelati highlighted providing support to the private sector and Egyptian and African investors. How would you comment on the importance of providing support to private sector to achieve African integration?
Well, supporting the private sector has been a cornerstone in the Egyptian economic policy in the last decade, and we've seen this in many documents that Egypt uses to address the business community, whether locally, regionally, or internationally, including, of course, the policy of state ownership that was launched in 2022. Now the private sector, whether large corporates or SMEs, is central in the Egyptian economic plans, whether the Egyptian strategy for industrialization or industrial development, or the financing initiatives undertaken either by the Ministry of Finance or the Central Bank of Egypt. Now, cooperating with the Afrcia Bank in this regard is important because Egypt now is trying to mobilize all the possible financing vehicles to support its private sector to help achieving its growth targets. We're targeting between 4.5 to 5% growth of GDP this year, and we're targeting 7% growth on the long run.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Professor Ayman Ghoneim, economic expert. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And back to our reports. And the Cabinet Media Center published an